Okay, so,
I say games.
Alex, listen. You'll need to be writing.
I say games.
So if we're talking about finite differences, look at your patterns, okay, on your graph. This is saying that we're doing length versus area. So if we're going to fill in our table, if you're going to fill in your table, the first one with the square, it has a length of 1 on the side. So we're just going to put that we've got a length of 1. And let me change color because we can't do that. So we have 1. And how do we find the area of a square?
Base times height?
Yeah, base times height, or since it's a square, we can just do side squared. So 1 squared is 1. If we have 2 right here, we have a whole side of 2. What's 2 times 2? 4. Here we got 3. What's 3 times 3?
9.
And what's 4 times 4?
16.
So basically this right here is our parent function that we've already been dealing with throughout the week. Y equals x squared. Because that's how we find the area of a square. What we want to look at here is kind of talk about a minute. If we're talking about this particular problem, and we want to know what's the domain and what's the range. Well, what is domain? X or Y? It's X. So we want X. When we're talking about finding area, what can X not be?
0.
We really don't want it to be 0, right? What else? Can it be negative?
No.
No, because we're talking about measurements, okay? So even though it could be for this problem, for just the parent function, we don't want this to be negative or 0. Now, depending on the problem, you might see it written where it includes 0, because if you have 0 length, you're simply going to have 0 area. Okay, it's not a negative, it just doesn't exist. So you could have greater than or equal to 0. Kind of depends on your problem. What about y? What are our values for y?
Y.
It is the area. So can they be positive, negative? What are they?
Positive.
Yeah, they're going to have to be the same thing. And if we had 0 on length, then we would have 0 on area. So when we're talking about a function that's an application, specifically, we need to limit our domain and range, because it's not going to be every real number, or positives or negatives. It's going to depend on whatever the problem is as to what you can use. So look at your graph here. I think I labeled these by every other one down here. So if this is 0, we had 1, 2, basically counted by 0.5. And then up here we have 2. So plot your points on here, and we want to see what the parabola looks like. So we're plotting the ones from the chart there.
The area the table.
I got 20 all the way
Yeah,
at the
you're
top.
plotting the area up there. That's fine. I may have misdrawn mine. But you should get a graph that looks something like this. Okay?
We draw that.